what's going on, guys? It's me, Train Man, and welcome back to the Zombie Train episode 166 or 5. I don't know. Just like a locomotion, we've been going at this a real long time. Anyways, here we go. It's Thursday again. Man, the week flies by. I am working on some area around the dam because I wrote an episode not so long ago that features this area a little bit heavily. And basically, we're going to have to build a good portion of this, a good portion of the gorge, and everything around Milford that is not currently built, including that mine area that I started on a whim. That all needs to be perfected by episode 4 of the Iron Horseman Chronicles, or episode 3, actually, of season 2. So, that's what we're going to be working on now, and that's what we'll be working on then. And if not, we'll put in some overtime, we'll bring in the build crew. You know, it's like Extreme Home Makeover. I don't actually have a build crew. Anyways, I'm going to make a complete detour from what we've been talking about lately, I think. I don't remember where we were last episode, but there's been something that's sort of on the brain, and it's a little bit more contemporary than the original saga of the Zombie Train. I'd like to just broach this idea with you guys and maybe explain a little bit of its conception, as well as explain a little bit about what happened to our dear friend the Admiral. I don't remember his name now. I gave him, I took a name that was the name of an admiral of rather high honors in this current day and age, and I gave him this character. He has his name. But anyways, I forgot what it was. So, I don't remember this guy's name. I don't know why I tend to forget it. It's just kind of like maybe I want to forget it. He was the one that took the USS Enterprise, the carrier, out of the shipyard in Newport News, Virginia. I believe that's where it was, to meet us in New Haven, and then subsequently from there be the flagship for, be the flagship for everything that was going on in Yonkers. Fat lot of good that did. Obviously I held my resentment for this guy for a while. I never really liked him. Called upon his help once, in memory at least, where we specifically sought him out. Sad story here, and this was just, I'm not sure if this was oversight or if this was just stupidity. I don't know, I never really questioned it because of the circumstances of me finding out. That carrier, the CV-65, was it? Or, what hull designation is the USS Enterprise, the carrier? The nuclear one. USS Enterprise, yeah, 65. See, that's something I remember. So, the USS Enterprise, CVN-65, was decommissioned again. It was already out of commission. They brought it back into service because it was a name everybody recognized. And it was, the world's first nuclear carrier, blah, 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 and they wanted to make it a big PR thing, and important, and what the hell is the word? They were wicked over the top. As a Rhode Islander, they're wicked over the top. Or as a Rhode Islander, I can say that. Like that's some sort of privilege. Anyways, so they bring this thing in, and then it gets taken back to Newport News to be decommissioned, and apparently things don't go so smoothly from there. A lot of the Admiral's staff ends up dead, and they leave the ship there. Now, they were going to take it apart, and they were going to, do what they would with it, but they had to evacuate the ship, and it ended up sinking on its own. Not too far offshore. Like, it was grounded, I guess is the word, better than sunk, but it was lower than it should have been. The deck was within like 10 feet of the water, and it was at a list, and basically they didn't have the supplies or anything to raise that again. Thankfully, all of the nuclear material and whatnot was very well contained. In the event of a hull breach and a sinking, they didn't want massive amounts of contamination going on. A little bit of forethought there. I was proud of them. Anyways. So, Apparently they were writing it off the books because it has 12 nuclear reactors, because they're little submarine reactors instead of big ones that they actually use for modern nuclear naval vessels. And by naval vessels, I mean supercarriers. So, they decommissioned this thing, which meant the name Enterprise was freed up. That plays into what I'm about to talk to you about. So, fast forward a couple of years. I'm in Portland. If you guys have read The Pass, you guys know I was going there. Get to Portland. It's like New Year's Eve, and this is going to turn into a novel as well. Second time meeting Beta Rail, they come through. It's either New Year's or Christmas. It's around that time that Beta Rail finally shows up. They come through, they've got no brakes, no surprise. Anyways, that situation gets solved. I have to drop another bridge. At least I had experience. We then find out there's someone that we will call the messenger, who comes down from Seattle. Seattle at this point has been... I don't know what the word is. The place was a dead zone, obviously, because it was a city. Portland had it off fairly lucky, despite the fact that, a lot of the people there aren't, keep Portland weird. It's a very, how can I put this lightly? It's not a city with a lot of guns. And it is, they would have fared a lot worse than you'd expect, but people sort of cleared out, same kind of people. I'm not gonna, never mind, I won't go there. So, the people cleared out. What few people that stayed, and did so fairly well. And that left the city not as a dead zone, but as sort of an empty area, and there were plenty of zombies around, but not in a very horde-like state. They were dealable. You could deal with them on a day-to-day basis. Seattle was not the case, but Seattle is one of the cities on the West Coast that was part of the U.S. military's umbrella back around this time. I don't remember the name of the organization exactly, but they fell under the jurisdiction of the U.S. military, and basically what was left of the U.S. government at this point, they had a border-ish at sort of the Rocky Mountains, and they were busy re-educating an entire workforce to rebuild the United States of America, which was awesome. But Seattle sort of was one of these bright little sparks, and Portland was supposed to be there as well, and they were getting to it. But, it was a lot of stuff around the San Francisco Bay Area, because that's where they were based out of. And so we get this messenger, and he comes in and he says Seattle's basically trash. And more than zombies are out, humans are out, humans were out, zombies came in, zombies got kicked out when the humans came back. Now most of the people who were there anyways are dead. And the city is taken over, and it's in the process of being, not leveled, but it is in the process of being looted and completely, decimated isn't the right word, but devastated. Okay, well, the question would be why? Well, the band of Guardians was not gone. If you've read The Pass, you know what I'm talking about. They were a very prominent bandit group who came after me on one occasion. Or, well, multiple occasions, I suppose. But they were not allowed, but they ended up with some military codes which made them very dangerous to the U.S. military, able to figure out exactly what was going on, exactly what strengths were where, and on top of that, able to plan their operations very, very effectively. And the military, frankly, never knew what hit them. They weren't prepared for this. So Seattle effing disappeared off the map, basically. It was like, okay, this place is thriving, and it's gone. Portland was next. They were moving their way down the coast, they were taking out everything in their path, and they were, frankly, really, really dangerous. the group that we met up with, the group that we ran into on the pass was basically nothing. And we, by our own negligence, in a sense, and by we I mean everybody involved, sort of helped these guys to attain the strength, or maybe not the strength, but perhaps the efficiency that they had, because they rolled into Seattle, there were civilians, there were military there, they were all gone within maybe 24 hours. As far as we know, this messenger was the only person who made it out. Anyways, we know that we can't stand up to this even if we know they're coming. We had it lucky once, but this is an organization of now thousands of people that basically comprise an army that are coming for us and then coming for, everything down in Seattle, everything that's worth, immense amounts that they can use to instill their new world order, which I'm still not entirely sure what it was. But it was sort of the thing where they just wanted to get bigger and more powerful, and what's a better way to do that than take over an entire nuclear fleet that's based in San Francisco? So, they're working their way down the coast. They have, they have mostly ground troops. They do not have a lot of armor, if any at all. They do not have a lot of aircraft, if any at all. Which, again, there were some. There was not a significant amount to turn the tide in any way. We had to run down to San Francisco and sort of rally the military, and at least we were listened to, and they went up to Portland, and there was the Battle of Portland, in which the band of Guardians, left with their tail between their legs at, 1% of their previous size. It was a bloodbath, and it was a bloodbath for both sides, absolutely. Because the people that were in it, at least they were in it basically to the death. And so that meant that they did not retreat until it was the very last, last possible moment, or, last possible possibility. Probably they'd gone through a few commanders and one of them finally tried, whichever one was alive at that point finally decided, hey, let's get the hell out of here. And so they went to what was called Annex. Annex is something I should probably talk to you guys about with Wybold here. Because that was not my battle, that was his. After Portland, I went back east. Basically without very much of a thank you. And I was, again, a little miffed. But, they saved our behinds, but we arguably saved theirs as well. So, Band of Guardians finishes off the map again. We don't know initially that Annex is them. I think. I'm fairly certain. But Wybold figures that out anyways. I go back to New England. I work on the Newport... Well, it was called the Barrington Rail Revival Project, but it goes all the way into Newport. And it was running rail from the Northeast Corridor main line to a deep water port where we could dock the Constitution, where we didn't have to worry about fitting it under any bridges, because it does not fit under any of the bridges in Narragansett Bay. We had to tow that thing out, tow it to Block Island, where we could actually get it at dock, and then put the sails on it, and then run it. And we had to bring it into Newport Harbor in Rhode Island in order to actually use the ship and offload and unload cargo, which was a problem because there are no rail lines out to there from anywhere. There's a little rail line that doesn't go anywhere on the island. But that means we'd have to use trucks, or we'd have to use horses, or something like that, or, a connection with another ship that can fit under the bridges. Either way, we were burning fuel, and it was kind of, it was counterproductive. It was the opposite of what we wanted to do. Frankly, it was much better than what we were doing, because we were using a significantly lower amount of fuel. But we were still using some, and our reserves would not last forever, and that is a problem we ran into way, way down the road. You think about, okay, if you can pump crude, you can make oil. Oh yeah, I guess. You gotta move the crude. You gotta build a refinery. Refineries are sort of like big stills, at least in their simplest form. But we weren't allowed to settle for anything imprecise, I suppose. You know, it wasn't really my doing. It was sort of like, we should probably do this the right way, and that was sort of the consensus. And we had an opportunity, and I talked about that a little bit. But next time, maybe I'll get Weibel on here and we'll talk about Annex. If not, I'll tell you a little bit more about what that Enterprise name eventually went to. Anyway, see you guys next week. Train Man out.